Small talk. On the surface, it feels trivial, casual words exchanged about the weather, a fleeting comment in passing, a smile carried in the air. But beneath it lies something far greater. Small talk is not just filler. It is the thread that stitches strangers into kin, the gentle opening to connection, the prelude to the deeper symphony of human relationship. I used to resist it, searching only for conversations that felt profound. But life, in its quiet wisdom, taught me that every great dialogue begins in the ordinary. The universe doesn't always announce itself with thunder. It often whispers in simple hellos, in kind nods, in shared laughter about nothing at all. And so, learning small talk was not about words. It was about awakening to the truth that meaning is everywhere, even in the smallest exchanges. Because in the grand design of life, no moment of connection is ever small. When I first thought about small talk, I dismissed it. I thought it was shallow, a waste of time, a kind of empty air that floated between people when nothing of substance could be said. I craved depth. I wanted real conversations about purpose, meaning, the big questions of life. And so I brushed aside the small exchanges, convinced they were insignificant. But here's the truth I came to realize. What we call trivial is rarely trivial at all. In fact, it's the doorway. Every conversation that ever shaped me, every connection that mattered, began with something small, a passing comment, a question about the day, a laugh about something ordinary. That's how the thread of connection is first spun. Life hides its treasures in places we don't expect. Think about it. Flowers don't bloom in grand arenas. They bloom quietly in the cracks of sidewalks, in gardens, in corners where you might not look twice. Small talk is the same. It's not meant to impress. It's meant to invite. It says, I see you. I'm here. And that simple invitation is what allows something deeper to unfold. I used to believe that avoiding the small would take me closer to the profound. But I learned the opposite. By embracing the small, the profound found me. Small talk isn't the opposite of depth. It's the path to it. It's the first brushstroke on the canvas, the first note in a song, the first step into the dance. Without it, there is no picture, no melody, no movement. And maybe that's why it felt so uncomfortable at first. But because small talk asks us to let go of our need to be extraordinary and simply be human. To meet someone where they are without pretense, without performance. That's not meaningless. That's sacred. When I finally started to see it this way, small talk transformed. It wasn't about weather or traffic or the latest headline anymore. It was about presence. It was about acknowledging that even the most ordinary moments carry a spark of connection, if only we let them. And suddenly, I stopped searching for meaning in grand speeches and started finding it in small exchanges, on elevators, in coffee shops, standing in line at the grocery store. That's when it clicked. The so-called trivial isn't trivial at all. It's the beginning of everything. Because in the end, the smallest words can open the largest doors. What I came to understand is that small talk isn't just chatter. It's the first note in a much larger piece of music. Think of any symphony you've ever heard. It doesn't begin with the crescendo. It doesn't drop you right into the heart of the song. It begins softly with something simple, something that sets the tone and invites your ear to listen. Small talk works the same way. It creates the opening where trust can enter, where the rhythm of a relationship can begin. We don't often notice this because we're eager for the big moments. We want the deep questions, the life-changing conversations. But without the opening note, there is no music. Without small talk, there is no natural bridge to the meaningful. That how's your day isn't meaningless. It's a key turning in a lock. That comment about the weather isn't just weather. It's a door cracked open, waiting for someone to step through. And here's the thing. Not every piece of music becomes a masterpiece. Songs last only a moment, just like some conversations stay small. But that doesn't make the opening note less important. Because without it, the possibility of something greater never exists. I used to think small talk wasted time. Now I see it as time's invitation. It's not about the words being exchanged. It's about what those words are making possible. They're building rhythm. They're tuning two people to each other's presence. They're creating the silence between notes where something richer can unfold. And when you see it that way, even the simplest exchange becomes alive. A nod to your neighbor, a quick laugh with a stranger, a good morning at the checkout line. These aren't just gestures to fill space. They're instruments tuning before the concert begins. They're the little alignments that make the harmony possible. We underestimate how fragile connection is and how much courage it takes for people to step into it. Small talk lowers the walls. It's the safe ground we stand on before we walk into something deeper. And that matters because human beings don't leap into vulnerability. We ease into it. We need the first note. We need the warm up. And maybe that's the beauty of it. That small talk is never about staying small. It's about starting. It's about listening for the music that wants to emerge between two lives, even if only for a moment. The first note may be soft, but without it, the song never begins. For the longest time, I resisted the ordinary. I thought that to live a meaningful life, I had to chase only what was profound. I thought conversations had to be deep to be worth having. And so I brushed aside the small interactions, the casual words, the everyday moments. But here's what life kept showing me. By rejecting the ordinary, I was closing the very door that led to the extraordinary. We live in a world that constantly celebrates the dramatic, the breakthroughs, the revelations, the fireworks. And yet, most of life is lived in the spaces in between. It's in the pauses, the waiting rooms, the morning walks, the coffee breaks. That's where we spend most of our days. And if we treat those moments as disposable, we end up treating most of life as disposable. The irony is the extraordinary almost always arrives dressed as the ordinary. A conversation that begins with small talk can end in laughter, in trust, in an unexpected connection that stays with you for years, but it doesn't announce itself. It asks for your attention in the plainest clothes. And if you're too busy searching for something grand, you'll miss it. When I realized this, everything shifted. I stopped expecting every encounter to change my life and instead started opening myself to the moment right in front of me. That shift made me notice the beauty hidden in simplicity. The way someone's eyes light up when they feel seen, the relief in a stranger's smile when you greet them kindly, the warmth of a brief connection that eases the loneliness of the day. Small talk taught me that ordinary doesn't mean empty. It means accessible. It means available right now without having to wait for some perfect occasion or some monumental event. It's the soil from which meaning grows. And if you never touch the soil, you'll never see the bloom. What I resisted for so long was, in fact, the very place where life was trying to meet me. I kept looking for fireworks, but life kept offering me sparks. And those sparks, when you honor them, can light a fire you never expected. The lesson is simple but powerful. Stop resisting the ordinary. Because when you embrace it, you discover that the ordinary has never been ordinary at all. The moments we resist most are often the ones carrying the quiet miracles we need. When I finally let myself step into small talk without resistance, I discovered something unexpected. Connection doesn't always come in grand gestures. It happens in micro moments, tiny exchanges that might last only seconds, but carry a weight you can feel. Think about it. A smile from a stranger on a day when you're carrying a heavy heart, a quick joke with someone in line that lightens the mood. A simple good morning from your neighbor that reminds you you're not invisible. These are small, yes, but they're not insignificant. They're reminders that we're not moving through this world alone. For a long time, I overlooked those moments. I thought they were background noise. But when I started paying attention, I realized they were the very notes that gave life its music. Human beings are wired for connection. And connection doesn't always need deep conversations or hours of sharing. Sometimes it only needs a glance, a word, a laugh, What makes these micro moments so powerful is that they're accessible to anyone, anywhere. You don't need a stage. You don't need a plan. All you need is presence. All you need is the willingness to let a moment breathe, to meet another human being exactly where they are. And here's the beauty. Those little exchanges ripple. You smile at someone, and maybe they carry that smile into their next meeting. You share a kind word, and maybe it softens the way they speak to the next person they encounter. Small talk in its purest form becomes a chain reaction of connection, and that chain is what keeps the world from feeling cold and disconnected. When you recognize this, you stop dismissing those little encounters. You start honoring them, quote, you lean into them. You realize that connection isn't always about building lifelong friendships. Sometimes it's about being fully alive in a moment you might have otherwise ignored. It's humbling to realize that some of the most powerful connections in your life may begin with something that seems forgettable. But that's the paradox of small talk. The things we think are too small to matter often matter the most. And so I learned to treasure those micro moments, not as filler, not as noise, but as the threads that quietly weave the fabric of belonging. Because sometimes all it takes to remind us that we are human, that we are seen, that we are part of something greater is a few small words spoken at just the right time. The smallest exchanges can carry the heaviest truths. You are not alone. Somewhere along the way, I realized small talk wasn't just social. It was spiritual. That might sound strange at first, but stay with me. When we talk about the weather, when we ask someone how their morning is going, when we pause to notice each other in passing, what's really happening isn't about words. It's about presence and presence. It's about making space for another soul in the middle of your own busy rhythm. For me, this shifted everything. I stopped seeing small talk as surface level, and I started seeing it as a practice of humility, of slowing down enough to remember that the world doesn't revolve around me. Every time I engage in it, I'm saying, I see you. I honor the fact that you're here. That's not shallow. That's sacred. Because let's be honest, most of us are carrying something heavy. We walk through our days with worries, doubts, memories, responsibilities, and often no one sees that weight. But even the briefest moment of acknowledgement can ease. A smile, a light exchange, a casual kindness, those are reminders that we're held, even if only for an instant, in the net of human connection. When you treat small talk as a spiritual act, it's no longer about filling silence. It becomes a way of listening for the pulse of life itself. The weather isn't just weather. It's the shared experience of living under the same sky. The how are you isn't just politeness. It's an invitation, however small, to be seen. And maybe that's why I resisted it for so long. Because once you realize how much weight those little words carry, you can't take them lightly anymore. They matter. They always mattered. I just didn't notice. In a world that often feels divided, isolated, and rushed, these exchanges are anchors. They slow us down. They remind us that even in the mundane, the divine hums, that no interaction is too small to carry meaning. So now, when I find myself talking about something simple, the traffic, the coffee, the weather, I don't dismiss it. I lean in. Because I know what's really happening isn't just conversation, it's connection, it's reverence. It's two people sharing space in this grand, fleeting, miraculous life. And that's why I say small talk has weight. It may not solve problems or change the world in one sentence, but it acknowledges the sacred truth we often forget. We are here together. Even the lightest words can carry the deepest presence. When I stepped back and really thought about it, I began to see small talk in a way I never expected. I started to see it not just as words, not even just as human connection, but as part of something far larger, something cosmic. Sense. Every interaction we have, no matter how small, is like a thread in a vast tapestry. And the tapestry isn't just ours, it belongs to everyone. That simple hello you give to someone may echo further than you think. Maybe it brightens their day. Maybe it softens the way they speak to the next person they meet. And maybe that ripple reaches someone who needed it desperately. You don't see it, you don't trace it, but it's there. Each exchange, however brief, is a vibration in the greater symphony of existence. And if you listen closely, you realize that none of it is wasted. Life doesn't waste notes. It doesn't waste conversations. Even the ones that seem unimportant are part of a rhythm unfolding around us. Small talk, in its quiet way, is how we participate in that rhythm. It's how we acknowledge that we're not separate beings floating through space. We're instruments in the same orchestra, tuning to each other as we play. There's something almost divine about that. The universe is always nudging us toward connection, weaving us together through ordinary encounters. And small talk is one of the simplest, most universal tools it uses. You don't need to share a language, a culture, or a history to engage in it. A smile, a nod, a few light words, they transcend. They remind us that, at the core, we are not strangers. We are part of the same unfolding. So when I say I had to learn small talk, what I really mean is that I had to learn how to listen to life's symphony, how to notice that every exchange, no matter how fleeting, is playing a part in the whole. In the whole. That's why it matters. That's why it's never trivial. Because in the grand design, nothing is trivial. And here's what I've come to believe. When we honor even the smallest moments of connection, we are honoring the greater design itself. We are saying yes to life, yes to each other, yes to the music that is always being played. So don't dismiss the little conversations. Don't overlook the chance to connect, however briefly. Because when you zoom out, you'll see what I finally saw. Those small talks aren't small at all. They are the threads that tie us into the fabric of something infinite.